Week 5 has passed, so now I bring to you the Week 6 Power Rankings. We will talk about the teams that are rising and the teams that are falling in our league. Our first place team after 5 weeks is undisputed. We all know who it is. It's Cubby. It is Drew Michael at 5-0, our lone undefeated team. Congrats to Drew Michael after knocking off Cubby. It was a battle of 4-0 teams. Drew Michael came out on top at 5-0. Our second place team is Ryan Naughton. This is also a no-brainer. He is 4-1 and the best 4-1 record in our league. He has scored the most points in our league. With the return of Mark Ingram, he now has Mark Ingram and Saquon Barkley, two very strong running backs for a starting roster. While a lot of other teams are struggling on who to plug and play in their roster at the running back position, Ryan Naughton has no question marks there. This team looks good moving forward. Our third place team, this may come to a surprise for some of you, is Tyler and Miles Colin, also at 4-1. They have scored the second most fantasy points in our league through week 5, and they also have managed their team well. They have a lot of question marks. They've had a few injuries here and there. They have the question mark of James Conner still going forward, but they have managed their team to score quite a bit of fantasy points week in and week out. Our fourth place team, it may come to a shock for Cubby, but not to any else of us. He is 4-1. He is the worst 4-1 record. His team is definitely falling. Cubby's team does not look great moving forward. Let me tell you who he's starting for week 6 fantasy football as of right now. We have Matt Ryan. We have Jarvis Allen from Baltimore. We have Chris Ivory from Buffalo. Calvin Ridley from Atlanta, Austin Hooper from Atlanta. Jarvis Allen and Chris Ivory, both on not too great of offenses, both the backup running backs on those offenses. Those are Cubby's two starting running backs this week. He is also starting Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, and Austin Hooper. After he got a boner over Calvin Ridley only put up 5.8 points last week. Calvin Ridley also in the game looked like to fall behind Julio Jones, of course, but also Mohamed Sanu. Then there's Calvin Ridley, and somewhere Austin Hooper falls into the mix of things way at the bottom. Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, Austin Hooper are all on the same team and play Tampa Bay, an in-division opponent this week. I don't like Cubby's team next week. I don't like it moving forward, especially with Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is not bad. He'll drop 15 to 20 points, I think, a week. But the problem is Mark Ingram is back, which means Alvin Kamara won't score 30 to 40 points every week, which Cubby relied on heavily. And Alvin Kamara, if he slows down in the Saints offense, I think there's a possibility that Alvin Kamara catches a case of the sophomore slump. The sophomore slump is very real. And after his season high started with Alvin Kamara, Saints offense first few weeks, I think it's a very possible situation that he falls into the sophomore slump moving forward. I don't like Cubby's team moving forward. I know I've hated on Cubby's team in the past, but it's really looking like a reality now. You guys should go check out his roster. It does not look great. He needs to make some trades if he wants to make a run in the playoffs. I think he still makes the playoffs. He started out the season strong, but 4-1, and this team is in trouble moving forward. Our next place team is Josh Kerr. I have him moving down for different reasons compared to Cubby. Josh, I actually had higher last week, higher than Tyler and Miles. The reason I move him down this week is just inconsistency. He dropped 120 points 2 weeks ago, and then last week he drops 80, one of the lowest point totals in our league. 2 weeks ago, it was the highest point totals in our league. He's just all over the place. For that reason, I have him in the middle. He's going to be about a 500 team. He will make the playoffs, but I just think with the inconsistency, he will never be a high sought-out opponent, or he won't be a super low opponent either. For that reason, I have him in the middle. Our next place team is myself at 2-3. I got a huge win this week. I did not want to be 1-4. I beat Jake Kerr. 2-3 sits me right on the edge of making the playoffs or not making the playoffs. Where I stand right now, me, Josh, and Ross at 2-3, we are looking for 4 to 5 more wins for the remainder of the season. I like my team moving forward to get those 4 to 5 wins compared to Ross's team. That's why I have my team sitting right here behind Josh. Our next place team is Ross Davis with the 2-3 record. I have left him here now for 2 straight weeks. The reason being, I beat Ross the one time I played him. Ross actually, though, the other weeks of the season, any other week that Ross would have played me, he would have beaten me. He scored more points than me every single week except for the week that he played me. The awesome part about this schedule I set up is the second time I play Ross is actually this week. So we are both 2-3, and we both play each other this coming week. If Ross beats me this week, I will gladly move him ahead of me. That would be fair. Ross's team, though, for right now, sits behind me in the power rankings. Our next place team, shockingly, not Jake Kerr yet. It is Matt Davis, 1-4. This team is rising even though it lost last week. Matt Davis beat a good Ryan Naughton team 2 weeks ago, and last week he also put up a pretty high point total. Matt Davis all of a sudden also has a lot of running backs on his roster that hold a lot of potential. I like this team moving forward to make a run maybe into the playoffs. Our next place team, finally, Jake Kerr is on the board in our power rankings at 1-4. This team is falling. This team has lost 4 straight, and it's time that people took notice. Jake Kerr's team does not look great moving forward. Ryan Smith, no surprise here, is our last place team in our league for the 5th week in a row. This team is bad. We saw it on draft day. We see it in week 5. This team is not making the playoffs. If there was a glimmer of hope, if there was a sliver of hope last week, it's this coming week. There's just no hope any longer. This team will not make the playoffs. There's no way that it wins out. Ryan Smith has got to be prepared to not win the Sacco. Now, to add to my power rankings, every week I will do 5 takeaways from whatever week it is. So this week it is 5 takeaways from week 5. My first takeaway is Cubby's insider information comes straight from the toilet. It's shit. Cubby posted the group me his predictions every week about what matchups he thinks going to win based on the insiders that he talks to. He literally picks up his shit out of the toilet and throws it in the group me. He has been 1 for 5 in predicting our league matchups for the last 2 weeks. For the last 2 weeks, Cubby has been 2-10 in predicting the matchups. The guy doesn't know anything. He's just spewing shit. And the only reason that the first 3 weeks worked out for him a little better than the last 2 weeks is because he was betting for himself every time and he was just getting lucky and he started the season 4-0. Cubby's insider information is no good. Number 2, Jake's team is not good. Everybody get in your head now. Jake's team is not good moving forward. Dalvin Cook is banged up. Even if Dalvin Cook gets healthy, the Vikings are a pass-heavy offense. Dalvin Cook will not fit back in. He will be an all-right flex player, but Dalvin Cook just simply is not going to be a great fantasy play, I don't think, for the rest of the season. The Vikings' identity is passing the football with Kirk Cousins to Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, those weapons on their outside. They will not be utilizing Dalvin Cook like last season. Also, with an inconsistent Tyreek Hill, it just doesn't look great for Jake. Defenses are really catching up to Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is not dropping 30 to 40 point games anymore. I just really think Jake's team's on the decline. He's scored the least amount of points in the last 2 weeks of the fantasy league. It just doesn't look great moving forward. Number 3, Matt Davis is no longer Sacco Bowl contender. Playoffs? I'm not saying he's for sure going to make the playoffs, but Matt Davis could potentially make the playoffs. He sits 1 game behind me, Ross, and Josh of getting one of those playoff spots. Matt's team has also looked good the past 2 weeks, and with his running back situation having 3 solid options, He looks good moving forward. He is prepared for injuries. He is also prepared with trade value for other teams if he needs another position. Number 4, Mr. Inconsistent and Mr. Consistent. We all know who Mr. Consistent is. It's Drew Michael. That's why he's 5-0. He drops a consistent amount of points every week. I've told you guys that many of times. Mr. Inconsistent, though, is Josh Kerr. You got to watch out for Josh. You never know if he's dropping 80 points and he's going to shit the bed, or he's going to drop a league high at 120, 130. Watch out for Josh Kerr. Always a curveball. Number 5, this is just a call out to Ryan Smith. Are you alive? Are you there? Because this week you took a bold strategy. You went to the waiver wire and you decided, my team is good enough. I don't need anybody. Even though the Eagles' starting running back tore his ACL, there's 2 solid options in free agency. Jake picked one up. I picked the other one up. Ryan Smith said, I'll pass. So this is just a call to Ryan Smith. If you don't want to win the Sacco, I suggest using the waiver wire.